Welcome everyone. I'm going to show you how I brew 2-gallon batches using the BIAB, brew in a bag method. Watch the video and you'll learn that you can do this too. It's not that hard. You have to have the right equipment. You have to use some of the right processes. You have to keep clean and sanitized through certain steps of this. Check the link down below. I'll show you what equipment you need. Hey, if you know more than me, sure, I accept constructive criticism. But hey, be nice. I'm just showing the people who don't know how to brew that they can do it too. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, click subscribe, share. Get ready to learn. This is a 3-gallon carboy. You gotta clean up before you get started. We need to sanitize our carboy. Fill it with hot water. Put in 1.5 scoops of oxy stain remover. This will give it a blast of good detergent power and kill germs, microbes, bugs that will screw up your beer. Get your handy dandy carboy brush. Fit it in there. Bend it if you have to. Scrub every square inch of the inside of this carboy. You want it clean. Cover it with aluminum foil and let it sit. Let's go out in the garage. You have your burner set up. Fill your boil kettle with water. This is a 4-gallon kettle. I have 3 gallons in it. How do I know? I measure it with the yardstick. You will need your grain bag. This is brew in a bag brewing. The grain bag simply goes in the hot water and you put the grains in it. That's why we call it a grain bag. We're not ready to brew yet. Let's look at our other things we have ready. I have my big bag of grains. I have my hops. I have my temperature probe. I have my digital scale for measuring my hops. My portion cups for the hops. My refractometer for checking my gravity, my hops bag, my igniter, and a clean pair of scissors. I also have my racks. We're getting ahead of things, I know. This is how I use the racks when I do my hops addition. That way I don't have to mess with a hot, wet bag. Here's my measured out portions of hops. My brew sheet. Keep a brew sheet. It tells you what quantities, what times, everything about your brew. I keep notes. That way I know when I have to add my hops. Flame on. Let's brew some beer. I now have my water up to my strike temperature. If you are doing a single mash, you will bring your water to 11 degrees more than your mash temperature because your grains will cool it down. Dough in. That means dump your grains in. Pretty simple, isn't it? Get your spoon and stir this. You don't want dough balls. Dough balls, bad. Stir it. Stir it for 2 or 3 minutes. Cover it. Wrap it. I wrap it with my sleeping bag. Get it nice and tight. I also put a thick, heavy cushion on top to help insulate it too. If I want to increase the temperature somewhat, I will put a small butane burner underneath the burner to help heat it up. This is a stepped mash. Stepped mash is where you will maintain a lower mash temp for 30 minutes. You will then pull the grain bag out, flame on, increase the temp to 10 degrees more for another 30 minutes, and then repeat again at the end where you will bring your temperatures up to about 166 degrees. You do not want to have the flame on with the grain bag in there. You will melt the grain bag. Now, you have dumped your carboy with OxiClean. You want to rinse it 2 or 3 times. Fill it 1/3 full, shake it, dump it. Fill it up again with water. Now we want our water to be the same temperature that we pitched the yeast at. So we're aiming for 68 degrees. Add your sanitizing solution, cap it, shake it, let it sit. I do this while my grains are still steeping. That way I have plenty of time to allow the sanitizer to work in the carboy. Speaking of sanitizer, I also sanitize my scissors, my digital probe thermometer, and my yeast packet. This liquid is the same temperature that I want to pitch my yeast at too. That way I do not shock the yeast. We are done mashing. It's time to remove the grains. Pull your grain bag out. Take it nice and slow. That way you do not get that wet, sticky wort everywhere. I use my racks to set the bag on and let it drain. Squeeze the hell out of the bag. Get as much wort out of that bag as you can. Some say don't squeeze it because you'll release tannins. They don't know what they're talking about. It has to be over 170 degrees before the grains will release tannins. So don't worry about it. You need to get your water volume up for your boil quantity. I need 3.5 gallons. I will pour 160 degree water over the grains to rinse it and get my boil volume. Flame on. Let's start boiling this wort. When you first start your boil, you are prone to a boil over. Notice the thick, heavy foam. The thick, heavy foam is proteins that have risen to the top. Once it's boiling for 10 or 15 minutes, the foam will drop. That is called the hot break. Once the foam breaks, you are now ready to begin your hops additions. This is my first hops addition at 60 minutes. Be careful when you add hops to the wort. You could also have a boil over. I will have subsequent hops additions at 45 minutes, 15 minutes, and 5 minutes. When it is time for my second hops addition, I use the racks. Put the hops bag on the racks, that way I don't burn my dainty little fingers. Add my hops, put the hops back in the boiling wort. Remember the carboy with the sanitizing solution? I dump it in the fermenting bucket where I keep my big ass funnel that I use to transfer the wort into the carboy. Sanitize your funnel. You do not want a sticky, yucky, germy funnel. Clean and sanitize your boil kettle lid. Clean and sanitize your stirring spoon. Do that before flame out. That way when you cut the flame, you put a sanitized lid over the kettle. You do not want any microorganisms getting into the wort at this time. That can kill it. Now that you have flame out, put the lid on the boil kettle. Bring it into the sink. We need to cool this down. Cool it down quickly. If you have a flame out hops addition, you want to let it sit in the wort for 10 minutes. At that time, remove the hops bag. Here I'm using my spray gun to cool off the kettle. You do not want to get any water splashed into the kettle. You do not want to have any water from your hands dripping into the kettle. Wash and sanitize your hands. Now I plug the sink so it will not drain. Fill it with ice and add cold water. Now we need to cool this down. Remove the lid. Do not cough, spit, pick your nose into the wort. Do not let anything drip off your hands into the wort. That could introduce bacteria, microorganisms. Bad. Don't do that. Stir it. Stir it nice and slow, steady. I go through 2 bags of ice cooling my wort down using this method. This is why I like to do 2-gallon batches. It's simple. I don't need to mess with the wort chiller. I can chill it down in my sink using this method. When you need to remove your boil kettle to add more ice, cover it, set it aside, drain the sink some, put the wort back in the sink, add ice, remove your lid, and stir. When you reach your target pitching temp, it is time to get your sanitized funnel and pour the wort into the carboy. You see the foam in the carboy. There's no liquid in there. It's just the foam. A little bit of foam is no problem. It adds nutrients to the yeast. Don't sweat it. Carefully pour the wort into the carboy. You're also going to be aerating it at this time. You do not need to worry about once you get your wort into the carboy, you will then plug it up with your airlock, which has been sanitized in the sanitizing solution. Halfway fill each side of the airlock with the sanitizing solution and shake vigorously for 1 minute. This will oxygenate the wort and let the yeast thrive. Speaking of yeast, use your sanitized scissors to cut your sanitized yeast packet. I like dry yeast. It's simple. I don't have to mess with the starter. Remove the airlock. Pitch your yeast on top of the wort. Give it a good shake to mix the yeast in with the wort. Now you need to maintain your temperature according to the yeast instructions and the style of beer you are brewing. I hope you like this. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Click subscribe. Thank you.